Okay, team, thank you so much for meeting with me today. The last time we came together, I was talking with the Hopes team about the formative assessment process that I wanted to roll out for this year. And for you teachers that are here for third grade, I just kind of want to give you a recap. So we decided that we were going to go and write the assessments, excuse me, and then share them with you. So you'll see this little schedule here that I made up for you guys. And this schedule is basically going to talk about when the assessment is going to be. The Hopes team will have it for you by a certain day, and then we will see the instructional specialist and myself are going to look over it, review it, before the questions actually go to you guys. So we've already gone through the first assessment as far as getting the questions together. You guys have implemented the process. You have given the exam to the students. And so now we want to talk about the results and how we are going to meet for those results. So again, we are High Potential Elementary School, and this is my Hopes team. And basically, we want to make sure that we are going to be successful. We want to make our students successful in their learning. We want to make sure that they have opportunities to grow. And in order for that to happen, we have to make sure that we plan things properly and that they are actually effective for them. So this means there may be some things that we will have to change, that we will have to revamp. So far, the questions that were provided are excellent questions. We feel that the students will be successful with the plan that we have. So moving forward, we want to make sure that we have a plan for the data analysis and the meeting. So I wanted to, excuse me, have you third grade teachers here so you can kind of give me a feel of, since you were the actual teachers here, what the process is, if it's working, if it's going to work. You've been with your team for a while. So I just want to share this with you before we actually go through it completely and etch it in stone. So all of this process, since it's new to you guys, it may have to be revamped in certain ways. And I understand that. We can't expect the teachers to revamp things and change things around if administration doesn't do that. We have to work as a team. So after completing the assessments, basically I would like the reading instructional specialist to gather with the reading teachers and the math instructional specialists to gather with the math teachers. And you will actually look at the results of the data together to make sure that we're on the same page. And as this is the first time, we do have to look through it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that everything is actually working properly. So the assistant principal and the math reading coaches will get together with a grade level teacher, and of course myself and the planning team will be together to make sure that we can analyze this data properly. So when you come to the meetings, expect us. The administration team will be here, I will be here, and then we want to make sure that we look at the data. There may be things that, that Contis can pinpoint really quickly because he has more of that experience, or there may be things that Ms. Castillo is going to be able to pinpoint quickly, Mr. Diego. And then of course you teachers, you have that experience too by looking at the data. So we just want to make sure that we are on the same page and that we are looking at the proper goals, that the students are actually meeting those goals. So basically, before any of the data analysis meetings, what I expect, if we're looking at the first point where it says the following people are responsible for these tasks. Yeah. So these are the tasks, basically the preparation of the agenda for the meetings. It's going to be the assistant principal, Ms. Gutierrez. The creation of the calendar, including the assessment dates, analysis meeting, and the follow-up efforts. That would also be Ms. Gutierrez along with Ms. Castillo. We'll work together to get that prepared. The preparation of the data to be analyzed and pre-analysis of the data, which is going to be used for discussion. That would be the assistant principal, Ms. Gutierrez, instructional specialist, and instructional coaches, and that would be with you as well. So that's a very important piece because we need to make sure that before we come to this meeting or to these meetings, that we are prepared, that we have the proper tools, the proper resources, so that it can flow. because we don't have a lot of days that we'll be able to do all of this. I do plan to have subs to cover your classrooms so that we can focus on this. A PLC is not gonna be enough time. You know, you're gonna barely scratch the surface and it's time for you to go back. So I wanna make sure that we have subs that will cover you so you won't have to worry about it and you focus on what actually has to be focused on. Questions that can be given to the teachers before the meetings. Basically, that's also going to be the assistant principal and the instructional specialist. Determining the possible standards that the data will show to be weak or what strengths that we may have, when weakness that need to be addressed or strengths that we can grow upon. That would also be the assistant principal. Man, Gutierrez has a lot of work, doesn't she? And so does Ms. Castillo. The materials needed to accomplish the goals, that's basically gonna be administration. I'm included with all of these points because, you know, I wanna make sure that I have my hands in it to understand, to help, because if I'm just looking on the outside in, I may be missing some points. So I wanna make sure that I'm getting this together with you. So what we will need to accomplish during this meeting, we're gonna have to review the data. So that gives you time to actually review the data before you actually come to the meeting. We want to examine the data, just make sure that we are looking at all the interest points, understanding the findings. So whatever we find, we need to make sure we understand, is this beneficial, is this helpful, is it effective for the student? We also want to develop an action plan, so you know that Frank is not performing well with his reading. His speed is really slow and it's not where it's supposed to be. Then we need to think of an action plan. What can we do to help him better his speed or to get better with his reading? And not just that, of course, math as well. And then developing a reteaching plan, because Frank doesn't get it, we need to make sure that we develop a plan to reteach it so that he can actually get it. And then, of course, monitoring the progress and measuring the success. We want to make sure that we are monitoring it, because what's the whole point of us doing all of this and we just let it flow, we just let it go, whatever. You know, we need to make sure we monitor. How is Frank doing this month? Is he better? Is he worse? What do I need to change? What do I need to work on more for him? And not just him, of course, for all of the students, but I'm just using Frank as an example. So the strategies that we use to ensure that the team members will participate, I came up with a few strategies. I want to make sure that we identify the team's strengths and weaknesses. So Mr. Hantes is strong with reading. Mr. Diego is strong with science. So the math portion of it, we want to make sure that we put them together so they can focus on those things that need strength. You do reading, you do math, you want to make sure that you get together to focus on the strengths that we have, and then we'll focus on the weaknesses to build upon. Enhancing the team communication and collaboration, that's very important, because if I call you guys together and you don't communicate or you don't collaborate, then we're not going to get anywhere. Optimize time. So basically the time that I'm giving you away from your classroom, that's maximizing the time and optimizing the time so that you can actually work on this and not worry about what's going on in the classroom. Motivating rewards, we all love rewards, right? We love things that, of course, we love to do the job, the work. But I mean, if you go unnoticed, or we're not giving you a reward for what you're doing, then you're not going to want to continue. And everything starts off beautifully, right? And at the end of the year, it starts being less and less. But we want to make sure that we stick to this plan so that you can be rewarded effectively. And then, of course, developing a team culture and the values. That's very important. So I'm not here to make anyone feel bad. You're not doing your job. You're not doing this. No, I'm here to work together. So whatever we need to brush the edges on, that's why we're here, to work together. You're not going to look as you're not doing your job or you're not effective enough. No, there's some things that I learned from you and you will learn from me. So we will work together as a team. So the data analysis meeting will be held this Monday through Wednesday in the teacher conference room. We want to make sure that we have enough space so we can spread out. There's lots of data, there's a lot of work, so we want to make sure that we have a big space for that. We will meet and I'll make sure that Ms. Salcio has prepared the sub for you guys. That way you have that opportunity. Make sure that you have enough work, you have the proper work for the subs so that they can do the job that you're expected to do, so that the students will not fall behind but will continue to progress. So what do I expect from teacher participation? Okay, so basically questions. I would like for you teachers to put some questions together. Here's a few examples, like how often am I collecting data as I observe individual groups of students? How does my data collection reflect about my teaching practice? What does it reflect on my teaching practices? Am I looking at patterns in my data before final checks are due to inform and adjust my instruction? And are the areas that show gaps, perhaps do I need to provide more opportunities for engagement, and so forth and so on. Also, what's expected is collaboration, so lots and lots of talk between all of you. So basically collaborating not just amongst each other, but amongst the team, the administrative team. We're here to help, we're here to reinforce. Hone in on specific reteachings that will need to be done to provide student understanding. Prepare small groups. Know you guys all have done small groups and you're really good at doing all of that, so just make sure that we prepare that. And then underneath that, you're gonna see a schedule. So this will be the schedule. You guys are third grade, so you were gonna be in my in our meeting on Monday. And so Ms. Becker, Mr. Hantes, Ms. Martinez, and Ms. De Leon will be in that meeting along, well, of course you, Ms. Becker and Ms. Hantes and Ms. Martinez, but Ms. De Leon will be in that meeting as well. And then we'll do fourth grade on another day and fifth grade on another day. So basically the agenda that we'll be looking at will be on your next page. Okay, so far, any questions? What do you think about the collaboration? Do you think you guys are really a good team that collaborate? Are you guys okay with collaborating with each other?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like we'll all bring different ideas, you know.
And I
different
just
strengths.
love the like how you all create the questions is helping the students a lot.
Yes.
And it's guiding me to create the lessons.
Right.
like-
That's my hosting.
Yes.
They did an awesome job.
Yes.
So do you see, now that you said that, do you see a difference with your students now that the questions are, it gives you a time, let me go back. How does it feel that you actually have the questions ahead of time before you even have to present this to the students?
It helps me a lot because like that way I know what I have to teach the students. So when I prepare my lesson, I know what the TIC I'm targeting.
I can think about any misconceptions ahead of time and address it in my planning ahead of time. So those questions are a really good guide. Very
Good. Good job, guys. Good. Okay, and then now I want to go back for the students. How do you feel that the students are performing? Do you feel like they're more engaged, they're more interested, or are they withdrawn, or what? How do the students
It's
react?
less misconception in the classroom. Like now I know I have a clear objective instead of me teaching a lot of things and so my kids are more focused whenever I'm teaching the lesson.
It's more straightforward focus. They know what their goal is at the end of the lesson. That question guides us through the lesson.
All right. Moving right along. See that?
You see?
It worked going home and doing those.
Amazing?
It worked going home immediately and doing your questioning there.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's the whole idea and the conception behind that. We want to make sure that the students feel comfortable. I remember when I was a student, like the questions were like, oh my God, how do I find this out? I don't remember that question. I don't remember how to answer this, or I'm just afraid of answering. And it sounds like you guys are giving the students an opportunity to be successful. So that was the whole idea of giving you questions before, to make sure that you had an opportunity to put it into your instruction and think about misconceptions and think about things that can possibly happen within the lesson. Of course, I'm sure there's still some that occurred, but that's very normal. I'm glad to hear that the students are reacting to it very positively.
No, I love the objectives. They're clear. They're just to the point.
Right, and the whole idea is to align the objective to the standard, to the activity, and to everything that you are going to teach. Good.
And I
All right,
just-
I'm sorry, go, no, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. No, I was gonna say that I love that you add like check for understandings, like for us to include in the lessons, so that way we know like the kids, like you say, some of the kids might be shy to respond
Right,
when it's think per share, but there might be more like whenever we do think per share, then now they express what they know.
right, and we were talking about, last time, there were a couple of things that, just strategies that we were talking about, and a few of them were like just writing, like, give them a minute to write whatever, in their journal. And that gives them an opportunity to express what they are feeling or what they're believing or thinking, or maybe even do not understand. As opposed to speaking it out in class, where they'll feel embarrassed because, hey, Johnny's listening to me, I don't wanna say anything.
Yes,
You
because they
know?
might be afraid of saying the wrong answer.
Right.
So it's just like, I love how you put out those different strategies. Thank you.
And then it gives an opportunity just to write, even if they're wrong, you'll know, nobody else will know. That's good, that's good, good. All right, so moving right along with, our agenda, again, we talked about the task, responsibilities, like who is, taking care of what. We also talked about the tasks to accomplish. Looking at those tasks to accomplish, is there anything that comes out to you, or any questions that you might have, or maybe an idea that you might have that will come out to help us?
I would say like, you know, what other things are like the teachers using for them to like for students to reference, you know, maybe anchor charts, you know,
Okay.
like a multiplication cards or, you know, specific things, so that way like if students, if there's a hard concept that is going to be taught, what else can they use, what teachers use?
Yeah, and you know, that brings an idea. If you have, a lot of our students are visual learners, and they do need things in their hands, especially our friends that like to move a lot. At least there's something in their hands they can flip through their cards to remind them, hey, this is the task that you're doing, or this is what you're looking for, or this, sometimes even their answers. You know, they can write their notes on their note cards, the response cards, another MRS strategy. That, and they can refer to them, you know.
I just love how Ms. Becker create those mini anchor charts for the notebooks. Instead of them writing everything that we write in the anchor chart, it's just filling the blanks, the
Oh.
most important thing. So thank you so much, Ms. Becker.
Saves time.
That was very helpful for my kids.
Yeah, maybe we can bring it down to the other grades and up to the others as
And
well.
she did it colorful, so that way, like, my kids go back and they read the notes, so it's not just
Oh,
the
that's it.
boring.
I love color.
Yes.
You had me at
For the
colorful.
graphics and all of that is colorful, like,
Mhm.
but I love it. And they just have the main keywords
Yeah.
that they
It
have.
is
to learn.
appeasing to the eye. I mean, believe it or not, color is
Yes.
appeasing to the
It
eye. You
is.
see black and white all day long.
And we don't spend time,
Can be an
honestly,
organizational
writing
system.
the whole notes. Like, I have my anchor chart, the kids have their mini anchor chart in there. And the only thing they did was like writing the main thing that we're learning, like filling the
Cool.
blanks. So,
And they can always go back and reference to it.
Right.
That's cool. Thank you for bringing that up. Anything else? When you guys develop an action plan, let's go back to the reteaching. When you guys develop a reteaching plan, what focus do you have in mind when you do that?
Something that I think about when it comes to I have to reteach something I've already taught is my strategy clear, scaffolded enough? Do I need to use a different strategy? There can be multiple strategies for one skill, like multiplying. There's different strategies. Maybe one skill was too advanced and you scaffold it more or change it to a different visual or different process so they can attain that skill. So I think about strategies for reading or for math. That's something I would look at. Do I need to reteach the same or change it?
I would also say for the reteaching plan, for you to actually identify what TEKS need to be retaught as a whole, what TEKS need to be retaught in a small group or maybe just a one-on-one. So yeah, definitely looking into that and seeing what would be the best outcome for the students.
Like to add on to that, maybe an example could be like if they're like multiplying 2-digit by 2-digit numbers, you know, if they're failing to like master those, maybe they need to go back to just 1-digit basic facts, you know, so be able to like go back to the basic skills, so that way they can start, you know, scaffolding to the actual grade level together they need to be
Yeah.
assessed.
Do you guys, I know that you plan, but like, do you talk to the other grade teachers, fourth and fifth, to see what, well, actually fourth and even below, to see what maybe they have done to reteach, and have you reached out to them? We're talking, think about collaboration, because that's what we're all gonna do.
Yes, I usually talk to the fourth grade teacher, Miss Perez, because I'm like, I don't know if I'm teaching the right strategy. For example, for plot, I'm including different vocabulary, but I'm like, I want to make sure whatever I'm using, they're gonna use it in fourth grade. So I do talk to her, like, especially for reading it, like, hey, are you using this strategy that way? Because I'm teaching plot. This is my week for plot, and she usually says that sometimes they name like parts of the plot or elements of plot a little bit different from third grade. So I try to be as close as I can with her.
And sometimes I'll speak to the second grade teachers. If I'm reteaching something, that means they haven't mastered it. What did they master in second grade vertically? So I'll talk to second grade teachers. When you taught this TEK, how did you teach it? What vocabulary was taught? Because maybe there's a gap I can fill in my reteaching lesson. Or maybe we're using different strategies for the same TEK, and maybe I can change it to something they're more familiar with. So that helps if they're struggling. What do they know before? And then again, for fourth grade going forward, what do they need to know moving? So, yeah.
It's like it's not just like at level. We're actually helping not just the low kids, because I want to have my high kids to be like, challenging them more. So it's just like thinking about all of them.
Yeah, that's always
Because,
important.
like then my high kids are gonna get like, wait, I already know that, but we gotta put everything like low, medium, high.
Yeah, and that's the whole process of when you're actually looking at the data and you're working with small groups, you want to make sure that you put your level together. If you put your high with your low, then it's going to be more work for you, because you're going to eventually have to move that one to that level. And then your high is always going to answer all the questions, and the low is still going to be the same. They're never going to answer anything. So we want to make sure you group them properly. Okay, so what about the questions? Do you think those questions that we prepared are pretty good, interesting questions, or is there something that maybe we're missing that we can add to the question?
I like them. I like the structure. You have open-ended, you have multiple choice. So it's helping my class.
And how about the questions that we have for what we're expected to do here?
So I would say maybe adding one to, like, a question, how am I gonna push my low kids? How am I gonna push my medium kids? How am I gonna push my high kids? So that teachers can actually have a goal on how they're gonna plan for each level of students as well.
Yeah, I agree, because there's a question right here. It says, what do I do with the data that I have? So don't just collect the data, you're gonna have to use it. Like, what happens next? once
To
you
create
get
our
that?
small groups.
Yeah,
You said that data will let you know you have to do
Yeah.
a whole lesson or just a small group.
right.
How do I organize the groups, and what resources am I going to use to support that group with differentiated work? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So maybe looking into more the differentiated work. Once you have your groups based on data, where do you go next?
Right.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that our troubled kids, and there's not really troubled, it's just that they don't have enough work, they're already bored. Because you give them something to do and they're done, they can answer it immediately, so you need to make sure that you have another activity for them and have it differentiated, because if it's low for them, then it's like, you know what, my next thing is to go ahead and hit my friend over here. And let's cause chaos.
Well, for math, Miss Becker, what she did for us, she created like this folder, and it has like extra work. So when my early finishers, they complete their work, they know they have to go grab their yellow folder and start working in some of the activities.
Oh, that's good.
Also use other like technology programs, maybe incorporate technology in the small groups.
Right.
Maybe the advanced kids do more projects. That way each day they can work on different pieces of it, extend their learning a little
That's a
bit.
good idea. Cool. So with the collaboration piece, those points that are basically, it says you will be expected to collaborate with administrative staff. Do you feel comfortable collaborating with my staff? Do you feel like they're workable, they can work with you, provide resources, support? Tell me a little bit about my staff.
They're very supportive. I love that how they provide feedback. You know, like it's always helping us to grow as
Yeah.
teachers and mainly the students. So I love the feedback.
Their feedback was very specific.
Yes.
It's very helpful and always gives us an idea of what to do next. How can you improve this? Okay, try this next time. If I need help with any parts of my lesson planning or what I'm seeing in my data, they always have ideas and resource ready. So they've been very supportive. Just looking how to help the students, you know.
That's good. You do need to feel that support. It's important for you to have that support to where you feel like it's not an I got you. They're not trying to get you, they're trying to help you to be better, to do better, and just to develop into the right teacher that you need to be for the students that you have. So now let's change it. If I were to ask your students how your feedback is to them, what would they respond?
I think some say that they love it. No, I mean I think like my students are the ones that are actually more beneficial for your team feedback.
So you see growth and development?
I
in
do
them.
see it. Now these past weeks after you created this assessment and with the data, me using the data to like create my small groups, I see a big difference in my classroom. I think at the beginning it was like we were all over the place.
Yeah.
But now it's more like we have a direction.
Yeah, with new curriculum and everything, it's always going to feel like you're all over the place. I mean, when you're developing the lesson plans, you feel scatterbrained. You're like, okay, what piece goes together? How do I connect these pieces so that I can teach and the students can learn? So
And I just love that support from you, because if I feel like I'm confused or I need help, I know who I need to reach out to.
And I also noticed that they write notes under like exit tickets, like whether it's like you did a great job, or maybe like highlight where they did the mistake. So I think the feedback's going pretty well.
Yeah.
So those notes really, they actually look reading to the students reading those notes.
Especially like whenever we provide positive feedback, they love to see those,
yes.
you know, like you did a great job, and they go like, look what she wrote to me.
Right, we want them to know their strengths too.
Yes.
Not
And
just
of course,
mistakes. So
We're not writing negative feedback. We're just
Yeah.
like, hey, you almost got this. Next time you should do this. So
Yeah,
they love
that's
it.
important.
That's what
Instead
they
of
love
saying,
the
"That's
feedback.
wrong."
No, they just, you know.
They need to know what
What I
did
usually
it.
do, I don't mark the X. I just write the note like, hey,
Or
next time
circle.
you should use this, or kind of like guide them. That way, it's, you know, like that X is not
Mhm.
helpful.
What would your students say about your feedback?
Well, they like any positive feedback because then all of a sudden they realize like their self-efficacy. They're like, oh, I'm good at this. Their strength, and I can use that when they're in a reteach lesson. Like, no, you can attain this. Some things are hard, some things are easy, and they know they have strengths. Sometimes it's one subject versus another, like they're really good at reading and struggling in math. But I can remind them, no, you do really well in reading, you're paying attention, we can make this work. And it kind of helps encourage them to keep working harder and staying focused.
Yes.
And feedback when they're making mistakes, I try to circle or make a note, like, we're gonna work on this today. You'll do a reteach lesson. It's not a bad thing you got it wrong. It means, what was confusing? What was tricky? We're gonna talk about it today. So you'll be with me.
Yeah, that's
It's
good.
more about the student confidence too. I
Yeah.
have one of my students, she was really sad because she was doing horrible in math, and of course I was like, but you are a great reader.
Mhm.
This is nothing. It's just like you gotta learn the strategy. Once you master the strategy, you're gonna do great.
We just gotta work on it again.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's important. I know when I was teaching, one of the very important pieces where, you cannot give a child negative feedback and negative. You have to throw in some positive. Even if you're throwing in positive for something that's negative, you're making it look good for them, and it makes them feel better. And it does build confidence
Yes.
in them. It
Because
does.
if you keep saying this is wrong, they're not. I'm not even gonna try.
It'll be a defeated.
Yes.
So they're defeated before they even started. Okay, anything else as far as the collaboration, what's expected in any of that? You do find it okay with your small groups, everything was working well? You have enough time to work with them, 2, maybe 3 times a week for the low ones? Yeah. What else, have you noticed with the small groups?
I've noticed that when students do really well on their exit ticket, they're really excited to do their advanced work and a different activity. And so it kind of helps encourage them each day. Each day is a new day of, okay, hopefully I get to, do a different activity versus meet with the teacher. And the students that have to meet with the teacher, we're trying to keep it very positive, where it's not a bad thing, but okay, we're gonna figure this out. But it's gone really well. They all know to expect. We're gonna break up, and each student knows like they're gonna get a different activity, but it's been encouraging them to work harder. They know whatever their result is, there's, a second result. Where are we gonna go with this? So I've seen them kind of be more motivated to do well.
And Ms. Gutierrez, she gave us some of the resources for the small groups, and it's not like meeting with the teacher is a boring thing. It was more like engaging activity. So they actually want to see me instead of before like, oh my God, it's more paperwork. So it's more hands-on now.
That's good to hear because,
I even enjoy small groups now.
when I was in pre-K,
I'm like, oh yes, we're gonna do something
when I was
other
in
than
pre-K, the
paperwork.
kids loved coming to me. It's like I would call their name, they run to me.
Yes.
Because it's a fun activity, and you have to make it fun and engaging. You can't just give them a worksheet and
Yeah.
expect them to
Exactly.
do it. It has to be hands-on. It has
And
to be
before it
something
was
that's
like,
engaging.
you meeting with the teacher, that means because you got a low grade. Now it's like, oh, it's a privilege sitting
Oh
with
yeah,
the
they'll
teacher.
ask
Yes.
to come.
Yeah.
Or you can take them out to, they can come to your room to eat lunch.
Oh, I usually do that, or on Fridays, what I usually do in the technology room, I let them go play. So based on their data, like, oh, you deserve, go play 15 minutes and
Yeah.
then come back.
That's good. All right. So, what is that one-on-one teaching? Do you find yourself having to give instruction one-on-one to some students?
Usually it's only 1 or 2 students, and so it's the same students. So that tells me, to monitor their data really closely because something's going on. If they're always meeting with me one-on-one consistently, so I'm monitoring that right now, so we can come up with a plan for those students. It's usually not a lot of students, and it's always the same 1 or 2, and so I'm just monitoring and taking data on what's the deficits are and what's happening during my one-on-one small group.
And that's exactly what I wanted to hear, the data.
Mhm.
You're gonna monitor the data more for those students because it should be on a daily basis. I know it's not feasible all the time, but when you get that data, it's very important. And it's there's a lot of times that we want to just do one-on-one when we can also just go visit where they're actually around with their friends. You can hear their conversations. You can hear, do they need more speech? Like ideas, like do they need to be able to read better? Is the vocabulary not extensive enough? You can tell lots and lots of data by just going around where they're friends. Of course, as you walk closer, they start to but it's beneficial. Okay, so preparing a plan for the assessments of the students outside of the formative and summative assessment. How would you track that growth?
Tracking growth using assessments, I would like to divide it by teak, so I know exactly what teaks are growing on and what they're not growing with. Usually using the computer and color coding my low kids, my medium kids, my high kids, and keeping track of how they're doing at the beginning of the year, a few weeks later, every time we hit the end of the unit. And I can compare. Is there progress being made or no progress being made? Is it for a specific teak? Is it overall passing? So usually using the computer and looking at it per teak is helping.
I think the Reading Plus has that great where you actually select the students, you have give them the reading level, but then I can go back and I can see, you know, like if they make progress in their fluency and comprehension without them even know that they're being assessed, then I can just move their higher reading level.
Isn't technology great?
Yes, yes.
It tells us just by them
Just by
answering
how many
questions, it
minutes,
tells
yes,
you
the
what it is.
comprehension, if they
Yeah.
got better, so it's just, and they love spending time on the computer reading books online.
So my reason for asking that is because on the last page, and I think this is what Ms. Becker is talking about, tracking their data by their skill or how they were able to meet or approach, or if they were able to master the activity or the assessment that they had. So this is just a generic basic one. There's many, many more, and there's more detailed, like Ms. Baker was saying about TEKS. The last one that I shared with my team had like an actual, that it would break it down to what is the actual TEK that the child is having trouble with. If you look at the bottom part, the grade piece, basically it's kind of like that. You're honing in on the problems that the students were not getting, and then you're actually able to see how many students had that same problem with that same question. Because maybe the question wasn't as clear, you know, maybe it wasn't written correctly, maybe there's some typos or some errors that we need to fix. However, the question was written properly and everything was in order, then something is wrong with the student. Something is wrong with our delivery. Maybe we're not making it as clear for them to be effective or successful. So maybe we need to look back at that question and see, why did 10 out of 15 students not pass that or not get that question correct? Make sure that it's aligned to the TEK, make sure that you have the supporting standards, things that you actually need to work to develop to reteach it, reteach that type of question. Okay? So, looking back at our formative assessment process, we've just gone through the first assessment. The HOPES team wrote the questions. We reviewed it, and then we actually had the revision and everything was ready for you to look at by the August 28th. So you've done the assessment, and now we're going to look at the results to see what we need to work on. Actually, the instructional coach and I looked at the results, and they do look better, and I'm very happy with my team because this means that you guys are really focusing on what needs to be taught, and you are reteaching, you are doing what you need to do in order for the students to be successful. Of course, this is just the interim assessment. Of course, we're looking at them being very successful with STAR, but I feel like we are getting them there. There are baby steps for some of these students. Some of these students, like, they're ready to go. They're ready to take the test today and ready to pass it. I mean, I want to get rid of tests as soon as I can myself, right? So our next meeting is going to be that week of October 9th to 13th. So that's when we'll be doing what I was talking to you about right now. My expectations are for you to look at the data, see what trends are they that you can see within those data. Write some questions that you might have for yourself to bring to the team so that we can collaborate and talk about the questions. Maybe a question I didn't think about, you know, and we can work with those using those questions. And then, of course, collaboration. So if you come to the meeting and you're not going to speak, then I need for you to get your little speaking speech out so that we can collaborate together. There are a few teachers that are new, and they're probably going to be more of listeners, and that's okay because they need to get you know, themselves together with the team. It takes some time for them to grow and develop and to understand how we think. So Ms. Martinez and Ms. Becker, you ladies are doing phenomenal. You're doing great, and I just feel that the new teachers that are coming on with you guys are going to be very, very this is going to be beneficial for them. and they're gonna be successful, and in turn, when they're successful, the students are successful. And when the students are successful, our school is successful. So we wanna make sure that we do get them on board and we get them where they need to be. Okay, any questions, any concerns?
No.
My hopes team was pretty quiet today.
Right, well, the
They got it.
teachers, I
They know what they're
know.
doing.
Our teachers,
We're actually happy that they're being so open-minded
Yeah.
to these new changes.
Yes.
So, thank you, teachers.
Well, you see, it helps. We're hopeful. It helps because you see that their reaction was what was given to them was very helpful.
Right.
So they can say, not only did you give us resources, you're also supporting us. And previously, like they were not used to the formative assessments, you know, it's all a new learning game. And coming in with a new year with curriculum and new administration and new, oh my gosh, new everything. New superintendent, everything is new. So there's a lot of change, and I'm just very glad that you ladies are working really hard at doing this, because the students shouldn't feel that change. And I'm very positive, I'm very happy to say that I don't feel that the students feel that change. When I walk the halls, I hear the teaching and the kids are interacting, and I mean, you guys have always done that, but I see a lot of it, and I'm very proud of our Hope School. I feel like we're going to give them the best year possible. Okay, no questions?
No.
Everything good?
Yes.
All right, so we'll come back together with a data analysis meeting once I get together with my instructional coach, and we'll move from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.